It's Monday, October 20th, 2025, and here's the latest happenings inside the federal machine. The Trump administration got the green light. The troops are heading into Portland to assist federal agents. The government shutdown is barreling toward its 20th day, and as I expected, it's going to take more than a nationwide No Kings protest to reopen it. Also, former FBI Director James Comey seeks a dismissal in his indictments due to an egregious abuse of power, so he says. And also, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson seeks to sue the Trump administration over withholding federal funding for local diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The popular gas tracking website GasBuddy officially reported the first gas station in America to sell $1.99 gas in years, which is located in Colorado. A Hamas militant who engaged in the massacre on October 7th has been arrested in Louisiana after being allowed into the country by the Biden administration. And a lot more happened today, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a quick like and subscribe to the channel if you have just a quick second to do so. And also, if you notice any articles that I open up throughout the video, and if you're curious about checking those out for yourself, I will have them linked in the description if you so choose to have a look at those. So I'm going to start right here with Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Today, the Ninth Circuit found that the President of the United States has the right to deploy the National Guard to Portland, Oregon, where local leaders have failed to keep their citizens safe. This follows hard work by the Justice Department's attorneys and helps reaffirm a simple truth. President Trump is the commander-in-chief. Yeah, not a judge. All right, we will continue fighting and winning in court to defend President Trump's agenda. And move into Secretary Kristi Noem, who is the Secretary for Homeland Security. Another victory for President Trump and the safety and security of the American people. The U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit ruled that the president is rightfully using his constitutional authority to direct the National Guard to protect federal assets, personnel, and public safety in Portland, Oregon. The law, the U.S. Constitution, and Supremacy Clause back the president's action to protect the public and law enforcement, and today this ruling has vindicated us. And I've got this from Nick Sordor. Major breaking, U.S. Appeals Court gives Trump the green light to send the National Guard into Portland, Oregon to quell anti-ICE riots outside the federal facility. Let's go. Send in the troops 47. And we got some images of the president and the National Guard. And also libs of TikTok breaking, the U.S. Court of Appeals ruled that Trump is allowed to send the National Guard into Portland, Oregon. And we've got this for publication, United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, filed on October the 20th of 2025, of course. And it says, per curiam defendants, appellants, President Donald J. Trump, Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth, and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, in their official capacities, the Department of Defense, well, technically the Department of War, but maybe technically not. I know the jury's still out on that if it needs to be a congressional vote to officially codify it as the president or as the Department of War, but whatever. And the Department of Homeland Security, collectively defendants, seek an emergency stay of the district court's October 4th, 2025 temporary restraining order enjoining the president's order to federalize 200 members of the Oregon National Guard for 60 days to protect federal personnel and property at the Lindquist Building, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Portland, Oregon. After considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. Section 12406, subsection 3, which authorizes the federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. The evidence the president relied on reflects a colorable assessment of the facts and law within a range of honest judgment. Newsom v. Trump, 141 F. 4th, 1032 and 1051 9th Circuit, 2025 per curiam, quoting Sterling versus Constantine, 287 U.S. 378 and 399, and subsection, I don't know if that's a subsection, but anyway, it's 1932. We thus conclude that defendants are likely to succeed on the merits of their appeal and that the other stay factors weigh in their favor. We grant defendants' motion for a stay pending appeal. the appellate jurisdiction. As an initial matter, plaintiffs dispute whether we have jurisdiction over defendant's motion for a stay pending appeal, but we have jurisdiction to grant such a stay under the All Writs Act at 1043, citing 28 U.S.C. Section 1651 rather. Nonetheless, plaintiffs argue that we should decline to consider defendant's stay motion because we lack jurisdiction over the appeal of a TRO, temporary restraining order. While TROs are normally unappealable, the Supreme Court has made clear that where an order has ... and they didn't share anymore. So that's as far as I'm going to get with that. All right, anyway, so I'm going to move on to the next topic. I mean, I'll be on the lookout. We'll see what ends up happening, how soon the National Guard will get there. I'm assuming they'll be there by tomorrow. I mean, we're not talking thousands of troops mobilizing. We're only talking 200 troops. So I don't know why it would take them more than a day to organize them and get them down to protect the ICE facility, or at least assist in that. So I'm sure things are going to get crazy, or maybe the exact opposite will happen. Maybe people in Portland, Oregon will finally decide, you know what, I think this is getting a little bit too crazy, but I highly doubt that. All right, from the White House, President Donald J. Trump welcomes the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, Albo MP, to the White House, U.S. and Australia. President Trump welcomes the Australian Prime Minister.
President, wonderful to see you. Ready, face? Forward march. It sure is. One of the long ones. It sure is.
President Trump, sir, your message to the people of Australia.
We love them.
What you hope to accomplish today with the Prime Minister?
A lot. Great things. Thank you very much.
We're going to get a lot done.
Good, man, God willing. And they did get a lot done, actually, especially with rare earth minerals. So Rapid Response 47, the president meets with Australian Prime Minister. We're going to be here to talk about lots of different things, but we are discussing critical minerals and rare earths, and we're going to be signing an agreement that's been negotiated over a period of 4 to 5 months.
So we're going to be here to talk about lots of different
Secretary
things.
Rubio
and,
in attendance.
We might take a few questions before, but we are discussing critical minerals and rare earths, and we're going to be signing an agreement that's been negotiated over a period of 4 or 5 months. And it was sort of good timing that we got it done just in time for the visit. And we worked together very much on rare earths, critical minerals, and lots of other things. And we've had a very good relationship. We've been working on that for quite a while. In about a year from now, we'll have so much critical mineral and rare earths that you won't know what to do with them. They'll be worth about $2. But,
oh man, God willing.
We're working
hope and pray
with Australia and other countries. They're working with us.
That's one way
too.
to get back at China.
But other countries also on that. But we're really working on anything having to do with military protection, military ships, vehicles, guns, ammunition, everything, the whole thing.
Good
We've
deal.
been long-time allies, and I would say there's never been anybody better. We fought wars together. We never had any doubts, and it's a great honor to have you as my friend. It's a great honor to have you in the United States of America.
All right, there we go. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. China's their bottlenecking of rare earth minerals is supposed to take effect on November 1st, unless something's changed, but I haven't seen anything change on that. So hopefully they'll get some good deals done. They did sign some agreements and everything, so hopefully the rare earth minerals will see some fruition, because I'm not sure what that's going to look like from the China aspect, but it sounds like our electronics, our motor vehicles, a lot of things are going to go up in cost. And as far as getting them down to like $2, that'd be nice. I don't know if he's talking silver specifically. That would kind of be nice, but anybody who's bought into silver over the last, I don't know, like, well, hell, any time throughout history up until just about a year or two ago, you're sitting pretty nice. Because silver, last I checked, it was like $52 an ounce, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. It was something like $16 around 2020. Anyway, so from the White House, President Donald J. Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed a landmark critical minerals agreement to secure vital natural resources and strengthen the U.S.-Australia alliance. And I don't think they linked an article to this, did they? Oh, they actually did. I'm glad I looked. All right, fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump closes billion-dollar deals with Australia. So it says achieving critical mineral and energy dominance. Today, well, here, let me make this a little bit larger in case anybody's watched. Oh, wait, yeah, that's right. That's why I had to shrink it, because of this stupid social media tab on the side. All right, anyways, today, President Donald J. Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed a landmark critical minerals framework to unleash the potential of our abundant natural resources, a model for supply chain cooperation globally. The U.S. and Australian governments intend to invest more than $3 billion together in critical mineral projects in the next 6 months, with recoverable resources in the projects estimated to be worth about $53 billion. That's a good return on investment. The Export-Import Bank of the United States is issuing 7 letters of interest for more than $2.2 billion in financing, unlocking up to $5 billion in total investment to advance critical minerals and supply chain security projects between our two countries. The U.S. Department of War will invest in the construction of a 100 metric ton per year advanced gallium refinery in Western Australia, further advancing self-reliance in critical minerals processing. Deepening defense cooperation. Australia committed to enhanced burden sharing and is making new defense investments that will bolster the U.S.-Australia alliance. Australia agreed to purchase $1.2 billion in Anduril unmanned underwater vehicles and take delivery of the first tranche of Apache helicopters in a separate $2.6 billion deal. Since February, Australia has contributed $1 billion to the U.S. government to expand and modernize the U.S. submarine industrial base, with another $1 billion by the end of the year. Together, we are strengthening the Australia, United Kingdom, United States, which is AUKUS, trilateral security partnership to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Australia is investing significantly in its integrated air and missile defense capabilities, including $2 billion in U.S. companies for its Joint Air Battle Management System. The U.S.-Australia alliance is securing munitions supply chain resilience under Australia's Guided Weapons and Explosive Ordnance, or GWEO, enterprise, and building on streamlined export cooperation, which will directly support more than 200 manufacturing suppliers in Texas, Florida, Arkansas, and Alabama. And they're also promoting economic prosperity and technology cooperation. The U.S. and Australia are forging a historic partnership to drive innovation, economic growth, and technological leadership through strategic investments and collaborative initiatives. Australia's superannuation funds will increase investments in the United States to $1.44 trillion by 2035, an increase of almost $1 trillion from current levels. This unprecedented investment will create tens of thousands of new high-paying jobs for Americans. The U.S. recently secured expanded access for U.S. beef in Australia and is committed to opening new markets for U.S. ranchers. I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form, and anybody who buys beef would probably agree with me that beef is extremely expensive, and anytime that I looked up, the reason why beef is so expensive is because they say there's a shortage, and that's why they have to charge so much for beef. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense that we're shipping beef over to Australia when we're dealing with, what is it, like $20, $25 a pound for certain cuts of steak? Actually, much higher for certain ones. All right, anyway, the United States recently secured expanded access. Okay, I already did that. So NASA and the Australian Space Agency signed a framework agreement to strengthen civil space and aeronautics cooperation. NASA's Artemis program, which will return astronauts to the moon, will be joined by a technology development lunar rover from Australia. The United States and Australia agreed to develop and launch a bilateral technology prosperity deal to establish joint initiatives to cooperate and invest in AI, quantum, and other critical technologies. All right, man, they did get a lot done today. They got a shitload done. And moving on to the next thing. So U.S. Trade Representative, the deal maker in chief, once again delivers a huge win for the American people. Congratulations to President Trump for securing a landmark deal with Australia to achieve critical mineral supply chain and energy dominance. All right, so moving on to the next topic. Congressman Gabe Evans, a win for all. Gas prices are dropping. The national average is now below $3 a gallon and spotted in Colorado. I'm assuming that's District 8. It's even lower. Promises made, promises kept. And on a personal note, first time that I got gas in probably about 2 months, because I don't have to drive very far because I live so close to everything that I need. And it was $2.80, maybe $2.81. It was in the low $2.80 range. So, and I live in the St. Petersburg area, so gas is coming down. It's below $3, at least in my area. And what is that? The first time in what? 2 years, 3 years? Something like that. It's been a while. Actually, no, I think, isn't it more like 4 years? I don't know. But anyway, Rapid Response 47, Gas Buddy even recorded the first $1.99 cash price at a station in Evans, Colorado, with stations in Oklahoma and Texas not far behind. You were saying, Who? David Weigel? The Trump campaign trail promise was gasoline below $2 a gallon. Got a ways to go, New York Times. So that was from September 10th of 2024. I mean, if you really want to read the article, I'll link it. I'm not going to go through it because it's old news. But anyway. All right. So according to Gas Buddy, national average for gas fell below $3 a gallon for the first time since 2020. So it's been 5 years. Promises made, promises kept. All right. And next topic, moving along. Senate Republicans vote Tim Scott slams Jon Ossoff. You can't tell me the difference between Jon Ossoff and AOC. Let's take a look at this from Fox News.
Let me just single out Jon Ossoff from Georgia.
Ossoff.
I mean, that's right below us.
Yes.
Why in the world is he voting with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders in a state that went for Trump and Brian Kemp?
Oh, God.
You can't tell the difference between Jon Ossoff and AOC if you tried really hard. The voting records are so similar. What we know without any question is Jon Ossoff is only a moderate on TV when running for re-election. The rest of the time, he votes like a liberal that allows for parades and rallies to be sponsored by the Communist USA Party and to say nothing. The best way to stop this shutdown from ever happening again, the best way to make sure the American dream continues to go forward is to elect more Republicans starting in Georgia. And then let's roll up the tapes and go to Michigan and New Hampshire. Let's make sure that Susan Collins in Maine is protected. And let's bring another Republican back to North Carolina. You can help us by going to defendthemajority.com. Right now,
certainly
you can
beat
make
having a
difference
Democrat
by supporting the Republican Party at defendthemajority.com and keep Jon Ossoff from being reelected. And let's bring some Republicans to Michigan and New Hampshire as well.
I mean, it would be nice if Democrats got their shit together, but they are very far from that. And I don't think that they're capable anymore. They just double down and double down. They've been doing that for like a decade now. Okay, moving on to the shutdown, where we are currently at 19 days. 20 hours, 51 minutes, or 52 minutes and 2 seconds, and counting. Almost 3 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks and about 24 hours from now. All right, Speaker Mike Johnson, this is the first time in U.S. history a party has shut down the government over a clean, nonpartisan CR funding bill. It's a selfish and dangerous political stunt, and Democrats have zero shame about the pain they're inflicting on hardworking families, our troops, veterans, and even women, infants, and children. Every day they stall, more Americans suffer. Democrats must end their shutdown now.
And it's also important for us to note, this is the first time in history that any party has had the audacity to shut down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. This is a political stunt.
Well, if you ask, like, what makes it clean, it's that the Republicans added nothing to this bill at all. It's the same bill that they've been passing for about 5 years now. They've passed the same identical bill, the same page count, the same text, same language, same grammar, same everything. It's exactly the same bill that they've passed 13 times over the last 5 years. Again, adding nothing to it. And he's just pointing out the obvious, that it just doesn't make any sense that Democrats would suddenly want to shut down the government over it.
And it's the first time it's been done, and it is the most costly, most selfish, most dangerous political stunt in the history of the United States Congress, because as we have stood here day after day after day explaining all the Americans who are being harmed by this nonsense. And the Senate Democrats have zero shame about this. They don't have any shame at all about the
they're
pain
just
that
blaming
they're
the other
inflicting
side
upon
as usual.
hardworking families, upon soldiers and law enforcement officers and veterans and the elderly and the disabled and women, infants, and children. Services to all those categories and paychecks to those folks are being stalled because Democrats are playing games.
Yep, just a classic case of blame the other side for what you're already guilty of. And the women, infants, and children, he's talking about the WIC program. It's running out of money, and if the government remains shut down, it will completely run out of money. So they're trying to find funding for it, which I don't know if they're going to have to reach out to private entities. I don't know what they're going to do with that exactly, but it's a major problem. All right, Homeland Security, an alleged Hamas terrorist involved in the October 7th Israel attack was arrested in Louisiana. Al-Muhtadi entered the United States under the Biden administration in 2024. If you want to help us decide who will enter our country, join us, because they're hiring. And because it's a link to a page, I'll link it in the description if you want to check it out. But anyway, from Homeland Security, quote, "This is just pure evil, and it was right here on American soil." Trisha, Ohio. Mahmoud Amin Yaqub Al-Muhtadi, age 33, a Gazan native, currently residing in Lafayette, Louisiana, was arrested for his alleged involvement in the Hamas-led terrorist attack against Israel on October 7th of 23. Al-Muhtadi entered the U.S. on September 12th of 24 after providing false information in his U.S. visa application relating to his involvement with the paramilitary organization, connection to Hamas, participation in a terrorist attack, and military training.
Just want to show everybody here. This is apparently what he said in a call with another man on October 7th. If things go the way they should, Syria will take part. Lebanon will take part. It's going to be a third world war. It will be a war of attritions. That will be perfect. It's interesting because the speculation was that Yahya Sinwar believed that this would bring everybody together to attack Israel at the same time. So that's interesting. What do we know
It's
about
hilarious
him,
how the left
his
cheers them
whereabouts
on,
in the
too.
United States, and how did he get back here
Yeah,
again?
he's for Palestine.
Yeah, Dana, this is just pure evil, and it was right here on American soil. He applied for a visa out of Egypt, came to Oklahoma in September of 2024 under the Biden administration. They let him in. He was there and then moved eventually to Louisiana. The Trump administration, Attorney General Pam Bondi has been spectacular on this and helping us locate this individual. He lied on his visa form saying he was not part of terrorism when allegedly he was part of a massacre at a kibbutz that killed 69 innocents, including 4 Americans. But Dana, this underscores the fact that it's not just the illegal immigration that was so broken under the Biden administration, but our broader immigration system.
Even our intelligence community.
They were letting in known terrorists like this individual to come into America.
Yeah, it's a hell of a ball they dropped.
Freely in our land after killing and being involved in the massacre of tens of people.
Tricia.
Yeah, I mean, if they're letting in confirmed terrorists into our country and just setting them free, off you go. You can go and live wherever you want. I mean, there was probably nobody they didn't let in. They probably let in literally anybody who wanted to come in. Which, you know, the Democrats are going to do the same thing if they get power again, which history shows it usually jumps from one party to the other. And if Democrats get power back again, you think the floodgates were bad before. It's going to be a fucking nightmare if they get back in again. They're going to tear down every square inch of that border wall, and they're just going to be probably dumping hundreds of billions of dollars to third world countries. Everybody gets $10,000 each. Come to America. I don't know. Hopefully not, but all right. GOP RNC Chairman Gruters slams Jay Jones and calls out Virginia Democrats for continuing to support him following his violent comments. Quote, Jay Jones should not be on the ballot. It's disgusting. It's disqualifying. And I've mentioned it several times. If you're not familiar, Jay Jones, he's running for Attorney General of Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, and he sent a text communication with some person that he's friends with or a colleague or someone saying that he was having or that he dreams about his political opponent getting killed, getting murdered in front of his children, and that he would get what did he say? He said Hitler, and he said like, oh crap, I can't remember the other one, Goebbels or something like that. And then he named his political candidate. He said between those three, atrocious people, his political candidate would get 2 shots in the head. In other words, he's worse than those other 2 people combined. All right, anyway, here, let's hear what he says here.
The fact that Jay Jones said what he did, or the fact that all the Democrats surrounding him, including Abigail Spanberger, is continuing to support him and to help him be a part of that ticket.
I mean, he's a Democrat.
Disgusting.
Blue no matter who.
Disqualifying. Jay Jones should not be on the ballot. But what this is it just portrays the bigger problem that we're facing not only in Virginia but in America with the rising left-wing rhetoric of violence and everything else. And it's we have to do a better job, and the Virginia voters can make that point by voting for our ticket in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they absolutely. They put party above country. The Democrats do. They 100% put their party over the livelihood of Americans, over the country itself. And this is proof that they're doing that, because as awful as this guy is, as the awful things that he said about his political rival, they're still standing behind him because he's a Democrat. Because we can't have another Republican get in, even if it's on the local level or even on the state level. So anyway, moving on to Rep. August Pfluger. San Angelo continues to set the standard for community support during this government shutdown. I'm grateful to see our local banks and credit unions offering 0% interest loans, and the city of San Angelo waiving late fees on utility bills and suspending service shutoffs for those affected. These actions are going to help countless families, but let me be clear, These measures are only necessary because Democrats continue to block efforts to reopen the government. Of course, he had to throw in that last jab at the end.
Government shutdown continues. Congressman August Pfluger and the city of San Angelo are announcing new steps to help those in need of a helping hand. The city is waiving late fees on utility bills and suspending service shutoffs for federal employees and retirees. Congressman Pfluger made the announcement late this afternoon while speaking at the San Angelo Visitor Center.
And I'm going to mention some highlights of the type of community help that is coming to our military personnel and to our federal workforce. It includes, from the banks and from the credit unions, 0% interest loans to cover the paychecks that would have been coming in should those paychecks be missed. It includes help with late fees on payments, mortgage deferrals, car payment deferrals. The city of San Angelo, Mayor Thompson has an announcement. I'm going to let him talk about what the city of San Angelo is going to do.
In response to the current federal government shutdown, the city of San Angelo is waiving late fees on utility bills and suspending service shutoffs for federal employees and retirees.
To receive the waiver, eligible residents must visit the City Hall Annex and present a valid government-issued ID.
I have a feeling some other places are going to follow suit with that, because that is a good idea. Helping out the federal workforce and the military. Rep. Roger Williams, every day our troops wake up ready to serve, even as their paychecks are held hostage by Senate Democrats. They keep their promise to America. When will Washington keep ours to them? It's time to reopen the government and pay those who defended our nation.
Just last week, in an interview here on Newsmax, you accused Senate Democrats of really putting politics ahead of people, ahead of country.
They put their party over people.
What is this shutdown really about for Democrats, in your opinion? When do you see this coming to an end?
Well, I don't know when it's going to come to an end. I really don't. But the Democrats don't want to give any favor to Trump. I mean, anything that's good, they're fighting it. I mean, they've been fighting, moving money around so we can pay the soldiers. We didn't even talk about the military.
Yeah, they're talking about taking Republicans to court over that.
We don't do something. But they want to argue that we shouldn't move money around to pay the soldiers. It's unbelievable. So we need to keep doing what we're doing. Trump needs to keep leading. We in the House need to do what we've done and support the CR, get back in business, and negotiate all these ancillary items that the Democrat want to talk about just to keep Trump from getting credit for anything.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. No matter what, they just want to hold the government hostage, essentially. That's why I think it's going to go on for months. Congressman Troy E. Nels, wow, Democrats admit that they're keeping the government shut down because they're terrified of their radical left base. Shameful. And this is from The Hill. I'll just read the whole thing. People are going to get hammered if they vote for the House-passed bill to reopen the government and keep it funded through November 21st, said one Democrat senator who requested anonymity to talk candidly about their party. A second person familiar with the political dynamics within the Senate Democratic caucus who spoke with The Hill ahead of the No Kings protest said centrist senators are fearful of breaking with leaders while party activists are planning the anti-Trump rallies. Quote, we would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine, the second person said. Good grief. Yep, that's the Democratic Party for you. Anyway, Senate Republicans last week, Senate Democrats blocked pay for more than 1 million American troops. This week, Democrats should vote for Senator Ron Johnson's bill to pay our military and federal workers. So Republicans, they have a bill on the floor, Senator Ron Johnson, to pay the military during the government shutdown. Do you think Democrats are going to vote on that? I have a feeling they might not. Senate Democrats, while families struggle with rising costs, Republicans are fighting to raise your health premiums by thousands a year. Share how much your plan would go up under the GOP plan. Share how much your plan. All right. Anyway, it got ratioed 95 likes to 148 comments. Of course, I gave it a like because I'm using my likes tab to go through everything tonight. Not sure if I'm going to stick with that system. I've been using my bookmarks tab, but I figured I'd change it up. Anyway, if you need to prop up the ACA with endless subsidies, it already failed. Democrats just don't seem to get it, but they do. Obamacare ruined our health insurance industry, not Republicans. And anyway, so I'll move on to the next one. Caroline Levitt, for the record, President Trump wants everyone to get paid because he wants to reopen the government. And this comes from Daily Wire. Haynes, quote, if Congress just said we're not going to take our paychecks till we figure this out, that would be a noble step in the right direction. Sanders, not everybody can afford to do that. Haynes, neither can the people that aren't getting paid, though.
It's easier for the politicians in D.C. to go away from each other and say, we will win this way, while people are losing their paychecks. If Congress just said, we're not going to take our paychecks till we figure this out, that would be a noble step in the right direction, I would say.
That's not everybody can afford to do. You got some young people there with kids there.
Either can the people that aren't getting paid, though,
I think
and
that's
there's
a fair
holdout.
point. I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, but what have you voted for, Bernie? I'm pretty sure he's voting against it. So maybe he might change his mind and be one of the 5 that they need to reopen the government, but I somehow doubt it. All right, Leader John Thune, we are happy to have the conversation about the unaffordability of Obamacare and how to address it, but not while the government is being held hostage. Open the government, open the discussions. I really hope that's not signaling that they are going to start dumping billions of more dollars into the Affordable Care Act, because that's exactly what that sounds like.
Great pleasure joining us now, Senate Majority Leader, Mr. John Thune of the great state of South Dakota. Senator Thune, welcome back, sir. So my buddy Kevin Hassett was on TV earlier this morning saying maybe the shutdown will end this week. What are your thoughts,
I don't think
Senator
so.
Thune?
Well, I hope Kevin Hassett's right, Larry. You know, maybe he'll be a prophetic voice in this circumstance. We'll see when Democrats roll back into town here. As you pointed out, they had their big, protest this weekend, got all their left-wing
That's
groups
what all the Republicans were predicting.
all over the country.
After No King's protest is over, they're going to reopen it.
Now they ought to come
I don't
back
think
to their
so.
senses and realize that shutting down the government's not good for anybody. And I think they're starting to feel the heat on that. It's just not a defensible position in the long term. And I think, frankly, that,
especially over Obamacare, man.
Vote to open.
They're shutting down the government over Obamacare because healthcare premiums are going to go up for everybody after November. And the reason for it is because they had subsidies that were put into place during COVID. And now that COVID's over, those tax credits are expiring. And they're trying to pin it on Republicans. No, they were simply meant to expire, and they're doing exactly that. And yeah, I'm sure healthcare costs are going to go up because they had those tax credits in place during COVID to alleviate some people who were struggling financially back then. But COVID is over, Democrats.
The government, and we'll give them an opportunity here in about an hour. There will be another vote to open up the government, that they're going to have to start explaining to the American people why they
voted no, by the way,
vote to shut down the government at
as
a time
predicted.
When there are important priorities that need to be funded, whether that's air traffic control or TSA or border patrol, law enforcement, our troops, obviously first and foremost. Those are all things that very shortly here are not going to get paid if we don't. The government doesn't open up.
Senator Thune, I just don't understand, among other things. So the Democrats voted in favor in the Appropriations Committee for military spending. Now they're against that. Now they're against that. They won't let it even come to the floor, if I'm not mistaken. And they're
Isn't
holding
that
hostage
weird?
to a $1 trillion plus Obamacare subsidy, which is going to people here in New York. Somebody did the calculation.
So the subsidy they're looking for is over $1 trillion then.
People earning $300,000 a year would be eligible for these Obamacare Democratic subsidies. That's
Holy
crazy.
shit.
Those are not low-income people. Those are not people that
Oh my
need
God,
help.
dude, that's
Those are
hilarious.
people that are doing very well, $300,000 a year. So let me get this right.
And they
No
scream
defense,
tax breaks for billionaires.
People in
Get the
harm's
fuck
way
out of
are
here.
not going to get their combat pay. Meanwhile, people with $300,000 a year are going to get Democratic subsidies for Obamacare that they don't need.
Dude, why do people who make $300,000 get subsidies for anything? They shouldn't qualify for anything that's subsidized by the government. Not even fucking EVs. Remember when they were giving out $7,000 if you bought a new EV? They shouldn't even qualify for that shit.
Thune, you got to help me out on this.
I'm sure they did, though.
I don't understand any of it.
I'm at a loss, Larry. I mean, we put the defense appropriations bill on the floor last week, and all it was is a cloture vote on the motion to proceed. They would have 2 subsequent 60-vote thresholds where they could block the bill if they wanted to. This was simply to get on the bill that funds the military, and they voted against it. I mean, I don't know how you explain that. I don't know how you defend that, but you're absolutely right. I mean, they're obsessing about these Obamacare premium tax credits.
Maybe we've entered the era that no matter what Republicans put on the floor, every Democrat is going to take a hard stance against it no matter what. I mean, like you said, it's to fund the military. If what he's saying is true and they didn't add anything else to it, which they probably didn't, they're just trying to simply fund the military. And if they're going to block that, I think possibly for the next 3 years, I don't know if they're going to keep it shut down for 3 years, but it sounds like the Democrats are just going to fight Republicans on literally everything over the next few years. So maybe we're entering a whole new era in terms of hyperpolarization of our political parties.
Subsidies, as you point out, which do go to a lot of rich people. In fact, in some states, I've seen people making
Gone are the days of
$500,000
bipartisanship
a year that are still getting these tax credits. It was a COVID thing. COVID's gone. COVID's over. It's time
darn
to move
tootin'.
on. And, you know, trying to hijack the federal government in exchange for a $1.5 trillion in
COVID's
new
over.
spending.
It's all over.
And to bail out a program that is failing and is driving insurance premiums up for people in the individual marketplace, I don't know how you defend and explain that. And I think that's starting to sink in with the American people. The Democrats they're going to own this. And like I said, we'll give them another vote this evening to open up the government, see what they do.
You know, you have said to me and other people many, many times, you're more than happy to talk about the Obamacare story after ACR funds the government. I mean, you're willing to negotiate, as far as I can tell. I don't know what they should believe you. You've been around a long time. You're the majority leader. You know, Schumer knows you. It's not like you need an introduction. This is the part I don't get. What's wrong with sitting down and talking after the smoke clears and we have some financing of these key operations?
Right, and I think honestly, again, it's hard to explain. They want a guaranteed outcome, Larry. They want these Obamacare subsidies, which to extend them for 10 years, which is what they're insisting on.
10 years.
Is a $400 billion price tag. This was a
$400 billion
in the subsidy that people in Obamacare get. You know, it used to be 400% of poverty. They took the income caps off. There are zero premium policies. A lot of people
failing system if they have to subsidize it forever.
Companies are incentivized,
which they've probably been doing since day one.
As they can. The insurance company gets paid, and there are a lot of people across the country. That
blank checks everywhere. Everybody gets blank checks.
I'm happy to have the conversation
courtesy
about
of you and me.
The affordability of Obamacare and what we might be able to do to fix that. But you can't do that while the government is being held hostage. And but they want a guaranteed outcome. That's
Democrats, they hold my beer on that
one. And I'm offering them a vote. You know, they want to get their proposal out there. We're happy to take a vote on it. But so far, they seem dug in. And again, I think this is a lot less about a solution to that problem that they say they are trying to fix, and a lot more about having a political issue and satisfying that far left base that was
it's all about F Trump, F Republicans.
Around the country last weekend.
Yeah, 250 years.
No, I don't think it's about that. If that were the case, they would have opened it by now, I think.
White House tomorrow for everybody, for Republicans rather. Look, if the Democrats don't want to cooperate, then Russ Vought will pull the trigger. The budget director will pull the trigger. Unnecessary staff, unnecessary
Cue the layoffs.
programs. Katie by the door. That's the way I read it. What do you think, sir?
Well, you've been in that room, Larry.
Yep.
And there are, and obviously Russ Vought would love to pull that trigger and do some downsizing. And honestly,
downsize the government.
This is where that's going to go. This is what the Democrats have done to
I mean, Trump threatened that last
honestly,
Friday.
They want to
what's the
open
holdup?
up the government. All these issues that are being talked about go away. But if you put this administration in a position where they have to manage a shutdown and they have to make hard decisions about where we're going to move money, how we're going to allocate resources, which agencies, departments are going to get more or less or not at all, which employees are essential, which aren't. You know, those are the decisions now that Russ Vought and his people are going to be tasked with making. And I'd be willing to bet the Democrats are not going to like a lot of those decisions.
Well, no, they're going to be blaming it all on the Republicans, too. Oh, my God, Republicans are furloughing 100,000 employees. Most of them are Democrats, so they're taking a political stance and firing people based on their political affiliation, even though like 90% of federal workers who vote, they vote Democrat.
Your colleague and my friend, Senator John Kennedy,
I can already see the headlines. It's too easy.
And he said Russ Vought is preparing for this day since puberty. He's completely ready. Since puberty, Senator Thune.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it might go back farther than that, actually, Larry. I know so. I think this was
well, you're not going to find a whole lot of conservatives pushing back against downsizing the government.
Majority Leader Senator John Thune from the great state of South Dakota. Thank you, sir.
All right. So let's go to the next one. Shelley Moore Capito. Just as Leader John Thune has said, we can enter into good faith negotiations on health care once the government is reopened. We won't allow Senate Democrats continue to hold the government hostage.
So Democrats say they worry the impact is going to be people who cannot afford their health insurance when these Obamacare subsidies, tax credits expire at the end of the year. That's been the main issue here. Now, Majority Leader Thune sounds like he said we were talking with them, or there's been some sort of conversation or offer.
Let me turn that up a little
We'll
bit.
give you a separate debate and opportunity to pass something on that point if you'll vote to reopen the government. Chuck Schumer, the minority leader, says there's been no offer. Can you clarify for us?
Well, I think that John Thune tweeted on Friday, he said this numerous times in his speeches on the floor and also to the press, that we're ready to talk about health care, to talk about the system they created, Obamacare, that they now is unaffordable, which we knew it would be when we voted against it several years ago. But Senator Thune has said numerous times that we will talk about this, but he's not going to let the government be held hostage and hijacked over an issue. So the sooner that they vote to reopen the government, the sooner we get to the negotiating table on these subsidies. It impacts my states. It impacts every state.
The Republicans are going to give the Democrats what they want, because they always do.
Hold the government hostage while
we won't give you $400 billion. We'll give you $380 billion.
We will
How you like that,
negotiate and
Democrats?
enter into good
Sign
faith
here.
negotiations on a very important issue, and that's
I think that's what's going to end up happening. I think they're basically going to give Democrats exactly what they want. At least that's what it sounds like. I don't know. We'll just have to see. I hope not. All right, Senate Republican Senator Murphy is now upset that the president is paying our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. Senator Murphy would rather our troops go unpaid until he gets what he wants, free health care for illegal aliens. And Chris Murphy, another week in Washington, and Republicans are still on recess, boycotting negotiations while the government is shut down. Now Trump is moving money around to pay only the employees he favors. Another sign that he wants the government shut down so he can act like a king.
So you've probably seen news that President Trump is moving all sorts of money around to try to pay people during the federal government shutdown. It's not clear whether any of this is legal, but most importantly, it's totally unnecessary.
That'd be quite
what
the
it
spectacle.
shows you is how opposed Trump is to fixing the underlying problem. The problem is that
it's so ridiculous
healthcare
how they
premiums
just
are
try to
about
mislead
shoot
everybody
up
they talk
on
to.
20 million families in this country. 75% increases for some families in Connecticut. Some folks are going to see a $25,000 increase in their health insurance premiums. Millions of people are just going to drop their health care. It's going to be a crisis in this country.
Yeah,
Trump doesn't want to talk
insurance.
about that, and so he is telling his Republican allies in Congress to boycott negotiations. The House Republicans aren't even in town. They haven't shown up for work in a month.
Oh man, that's
and
a
so
vivid
it's
imagination.
just important to know that when you read these stories about Trump moving money from here to there to pay the border agents or the troops, it's totally unnecessary. It is actually just a sign about
fuck the troops.
how
We don't
little
need
he
any
cares
money
about
going to
you.
them. That's a waste of money.
He's doing all these machinations, these backflips, in order to avoid dealing with the central issue that tons of people in this country are about to go bankrupt because health insurance premiums are
they're
going
going
up.
bankrupt now.
Why? Because Republicans
started this mess?
needed that
Wasn't it
money to
Obamacare?
pay for their giant tax cut for the billionaires
Oh, yeah, there it is.
and the corporations.
Something they can't connect.
Just understand why he's doing all of this.
I mean, I still can't figure out how you connect those two. How do you connect Obamacare with giving tax breaks to billionaires? It's just some random slogan that they just want to throw in at the end. All right, anyway, House Republicans, small businesses are sounding the alarm. The Democrat shutdown is forcing them to pause hiring and cut spending. Today, Senate Democrats must choose American jobs or health care for illegal aliens. It's time to end the Democrat shutdown. And this is from Axios, left-wing Axios. Why small business is worried about the government shutdown. I think they pay well, don't they? Yeah, they pay well. All right, small business owners want the government back to work. According to a survey of nearly 1,500 of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses participants shared exclusively with Axios. Why does it matter? Survey respondents are sounding the alarm to Washington and perhaps to Wall Street that the economic impact of the government shutdown is bigger than what lawmakers may currently be calculating. So if you happen to have a subscription to Axios, you probably are already aware of that article, but it'll be in the description. All right, Secretary Chris Wright, this morning, America's Nuclear Security Administration has begun furloughing federal employees due to the Schumer shutdown. I'm in Nevada today to meet with some of these critical workers and to ask Nevada's leaders to help us end this shutdown. I somehow doubt that they're going to do that, but that's getting kind of crazy, man, that they have to start furloughing Nuclear Security Administration employees. I believe that they said that they're going to be furloughing up to 80% of that workforce, those who manage our nuclear arsenal. All right, New York Post, James Comey. So we're moving on to the next thing. Comey asks a judge to dismiss federal charges claiming vindictive case and unlawful appointment of prosecutor. What? See what this is all about. And got it from the New York Post. Former FBI Director James Comey, asked a federal judge Monday to dismiss the Justice Department's criminal case against him, arguing it's a vindictive and selective prosecution, and U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan was appointed unlawfully. Comey, 64, is facing federal charges of lying to Congress and obstruction of justice stemming from the long-running FBI probe into alleged collusion between President Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and Russian officials. He's pleaded not guilty to both. But his lawyers, with 2 R's, claimed his prosecution is purely personal, and they're missing a C there in prosecution. All right, the government has signaled out Mr. Comey for prosecution because of his protected speech and because of President Trump's personal animus toward Mr. Comey. The ex-FBI director's attorneys wrote in a motion to District Judge Michael Nachmanoff. Comey's lawyers contend that Trump ordered the DOJ to prosecute their client because of personal spite and because Mr. Comey has frequently criticized the president for his conduct in office. You know what? That judge is... Is that Russian? I don't know. It sounds a little Russian to me, but that would be kind of hilarious if he was of Russian ancestry. All right, so let's see. When no career prosecutor would carry out those orders, the president publicly forced the interim U.S. attorney to resign and directed the attorney general to effectuate justice against Mr. Comey. The motion continues. Comey's legal team cites Trump's September 20th Truth Social post directed at Attorney General Pam Bondi, in which the president appears to pressure the AG to go after his political foes, including the ex-FBI boss, the New York Attorney General Letitia James, and Senator Adam Schiff. So they've got it linked here. Let me see if they actually have the post. An article, where's the post? Where's the post? Not seeing it. All right, well, they talk about it, but they don't actually show the post. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, I think I might have seen it. Yeah. Is this it? Is this going to be the post? Are they going to actually link it? Yeah, there it is. So this is the True Social post that they're talking about, which was back on September the 20th at 6:44 p.m. Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Dem senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that we had no case. No, I fired him, and there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsay Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President DJT. So it appears that it's still up there because I was reading that he took down that post like less than an hour after it was put up as if it was posted by mistake. But unless it's archived, which I don't think it is, it's right here on truthsocial.com. All right. But anyway, yeah, let me move on to next, if there's anything else. Yeah, so less than 48 hours after President Trump's post, Lindsay Halligan was sworn in as interim U.S. attorney for this district, the filing notes. Halligan, who is referred to in the filing as Trump's new hand-picked interim U.S. attorney, replaced former U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert in the Eastern District of Virginia and obtained a grand jury indictment against Comey days later. The filing includes an appendix with 60 pages worth of barbs Trump has directed at Comey since the president fired him in May of 2017 to demonstrate the genuine animus toward Comey. He called Mr. Comey a proven leaker and liar and a weak and untruthful slimeball and stated that Mr. Comey should be prosecuted. Comey's lawyers wrote, referring to some of Trump's earliest social media posts attacking Comey from 2018. Quote, during the Biden presidency, Mr. Trump's attacks on Mr. Comey were sporadic until 2024, when Mr. Comey publicly warned during the election campaign that a second Trump term would have serious implications for the Justice Department and the FBI because Trump is coming for those institutions, they continued. Then candidate Trump responded by calling Mr. Comey a corrupt liar who had perpetrated horrors And Comey's team acknowledges that dismissal of federal criminal charges against these doctrines have been rare, arguing the reason behind this is because for decades, the DOJ has maintained the highest standard of ethics, following only the facts and the law to determine whether to bring criminal charges. The charges stem from testimony Comey gave during a September 30th, 2020 Senate Judiciary Committee hearing in which the former FBI head denied authorizing leaks about the Trump administration to media outlets. Republicans say he lied since his deputy at the FBI publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that Comey directly authorized it. So anyway, I'll let you finish it yourself if you want to read it. It'll be in the description. They also mentioned the appendix was 60 pages, so they've got a link to that. And his firing in May of 2017, they got the article on that as well. You want to take a look at that? And Watley War Room Mugshot Monday. This is Sanchez Nicholson. So we're moving on to crime across the country. So he was arrested and released 33 times under Roy Cooper's soft on crime regime before he murdered someone in Charlotte. Roy Cooper's cashless bail and pretrial release continue to haunt North Carolina. These are all the times he was arrested and apparently released without bail or minimal bail. So what was it? 30 times, 33 times, 33 times. Good grief. And Chief Michael W. Banks, one-way trips. Since January, we've had over 600 deportation flights. The border is closed to illegal entrants, and enter illegally and you will be deported. I got a quick video here.
Nothing beats a jet.
Okay, well, that's a little cringe. So I'm going to pause that for the cringe and also because it's probably copyrighted, but I'm sure if it is, I probably already got hit with it, but that's all right. All right, here, let me pause that. So Commander Op at Large, California, right? I come across his posts often and I always forget. Is it California? Yeah, Los Angeles, California. So he's the Commander Op at Large, California, Gregory K. Bovino. And he says this U.S. citizen thought it was a good idea to use her car as a 4,000-pound weapon against our agents. We'll hit back with as many consequences as we can. When our agents were driving away from the scene of an enforcement operation, she drove aggressively at them before running into their van with her car. Her reckless and out-of-control behavior endangered public safety and our agents' lives. Any violence against our agents will not be tolerated. There's the image of her right there. So I don't know if they have anything further, any articles or anything. No, they don't. But yeah, it's a bit psychotic, lady. I'm sure you're going to be facing some prison time for that. All right, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Boston, ICE, and federal law enforcement partners apprehended more than 1,400 illegal aliens just last month in Massachusetts during Operation Patriot 2.0, targeting transnational organized crime, gangs, and egregious criminal aliens throughout Massachusetts. We're grateful for our brave federal partners who were instrumental in the success of this operation, including CBP, ATF, and State Department, their Diplomatic Security Service, and also DEA and the U.S. Marshals Service. And they've got details on that on ice.gov, which if you want to check that out, it's down there if you want to see it. And from Dan Bongino, thank you, Mr. President. We will not let up. And he's responding to Donald Trump's True Social post. The FBI under my administration is doing an incredible job. Since January 20th, more than 28,000 violent criminals have been arrested, record-breaking, with over 6,000 illegal weapons seized, more than 1,700 child predators and 300 human traffickers taken off the streets, 5,000 innocent children rescued, 2,000 criminal enterprises disrupted, 1,900 kilos of fentanyl, enough to kill 125 million people, have been taken out. Historic results. We are bringing law and order back to America. Cash, Dan, Andrew, and the men and women of the FBI are doing a tremendous job making America safe again. And Cash Patel, he replied to that too, and he basically said, thanks for letting good cops be cops. So, all right, Donald N. Muhammad, CPOEPP. I can go on and on about the lies this incompetent administration and individual spews. He is divisive, caters to illegal migrants on the backs of black people by dumping them in our neighborhoods and allocating millions of dollars for them, yet tries to act like he is for the disadvantaged. So he's responding, by the way, to Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago. He said they picked a fight with the wrong city. Chicago has been through worse than this before, and we will come out of this federal invasion stronger and more united. Whether you are the descendant of slaves or immigrants, you belong in the greatest freaking city in the world. So he finishes up by saying, shoved sanctuary status down our throats, then refuses to work with Trump. So now the federal money spigot is shut off. So instead of working with the president on a common sense solution, he would rather blame him for everything while continuing to duck accountability and responsibility, all while taxing businesses and people right out of Chicago. All while his real bosses of the CTU Local 1 stands to reap millions. So curious to know who this is. Okay, so he is the Diplomatic Security Consulting and Secure Transportation Group, LLC, 30-year security and corrections, security consulting, and executive protection. All right. So he's got a video, Mayor Brandon Johnson. So we'll take a look at this and see what he's talking about.
Chicago is worth protecting. This is our city. We bend to no one, and we cannot be broken. I know the storms have rattled us, and people are drowning in the despair of hopelessness.
By the way, one of the polls shows him at only a 6% approval rating.
To pick a fight with. We are Chicago. We've been through a lot worse than this. We will come out of this, you all. We will come out stronger and more united as a city. We will be stronger.
This is wild. They get like 3,000 shootings a year. That's common knowledge.
I can see the hopes
and
aspirations of our ancestors that dream that black, brown, and white and Asian folks from all over the city can come together united to beat back against tyranny, but also to ensure that we build a city that works for everyone, no matter what corner of the city you live in, no matter where you come from.
Dude, get a grip on your crime already.
Or you an immigrant, you
what the hell, man?
in the greatest freaking city in the world, the city of Chicago. This is our time, Chicago. We will stand up for justice. We will put forth a budget that protects us from tyranny. I'm committed to working with you, City Council,
the tyranny.
to ensure that every single Chicagoan can live justly and can live prosperly. Thank you all. God bless you.
Oh, I'm sure he was really patting himself on the back for that one. He's like, that one's totally going in the history books. All right, so I got another one. Mayor Brandon Johnson, Chicago will not stand by while the federal government weaponizes emergency funding to attack our values. We will fight to ensure our first responders have the tools they need and that our commitment to equity and inclusion remains strong. Mayor Johnson sues the Trump administration to protect Chicago's diversity programs. Not sure if he's going to win that one. So the city of Chicago filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over unlawful restrictions on critical DHS and FEMA funding designated for emergency response efforts, including terrorism, public safety threats, and natural disasters. Let me see if there's anything. Yeah, okay. So this is from chicago.gov. And let's have a quick look at this. City of Chicago files legal challenge against the Trump administration over unlawful restrictions on federal emergency grants. Lawsuit seeks to protect critical DHS FEMA funding designated for emergency response efforts. And of course, it's out of Chicago. Today, the city of Chicago, together with 8 other local governments, filed a federal lawsuit challenging new and unlawful conditions imposed by the Trump administration on grant awards from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The lawsuit seeks to protect tens of millions of dollars in critical funding that supports Chicago's ability to prepare for and respond to emergencies, including terrorism, public safety threats, and natural disasters. I mean, the other side is arguing that it's being used for DEI initiatives, that it's basically going to be handed to people based on race and, other things, or like, I don't know, like women or what other, not totally sure. I just know that they're saying that it's for DEI related initiatives, which I believe has been ruled unlawful. And it kind of flies in the face of the discrimination and so anyway, Chicago will not stand by while the federal government weaponizes emergency funding to attack our values, said Mayor Brandon Johnson. Chicago will always uphold the importance of our diversity. Ensuring that all Chicagoans have an opportunity to succeed is not discrimination, it's just basic fairness. We will fight to ensure our first responders have the tools they need and that our commitment to equity and inclusion remains strong and that we receive every federal dollar intended for public safety. For more than 75 years, the federal government has partnered with local governments to support emergency response and disaster preparedness through DHS and FEMA grants. Look, it's not about that. It's about you turning it into a race issue. I think that's what the Trump administration is withholding your funds specifically for that. These funds help Cities train first responders, modernize emergency operations centers, build public alert systems, and purchase life-saving equipment such as bomb squad hazmat suits. It's not about the hazmat suits, dude. It's that you're discriminating against people. You're supposed to be hiring based on merit. Only on merit. If you're good enough to do the job, you get the job. So, all right, so that'll be linked. And move on to the next thing. All right, so from the White House, current federal law is clear. Taxpayer dollars cannot be spent on Medicaid or Medicare related to undocumented immigrants. Rep. Jeffries. Reality check. Criminal illegal aliens did get taxpayer-funded Medicaid. Democrats exposed. Uh-oh.
Federal law prohibits the expenditure of taxpayer dollars on providing health care to undocumented immigrants. Nowhere have Democrats suggested that we're interested in changing federal law.
Whoopsie.
Aren't Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody.
I did universal health care when I was mayor, fully implemented, regardless of pre-existing condition, ability to pay, and regardless of your immigration status. San Francisco is the only universal health care plan for all undocumented residents in America. I'm very proud of that.
Oh, he's very proud of that.
Current federal law is clear. Taxpayer dollars cannot be spent on Medicaid or Medicare or the Affordable Care Act related to undocumented immigrants, and not a single Democrat has raised the issue of trying to reverse that federal law.
Yeah,
Raise your hand if your
exactly
government
true.
plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
All those presidential candidates,
We
they
do
all want to
ourselves
give your
no
money to
favors
illegal immigrants.
by having 11 million undocumented people in our country be unable to access health care.
Dude, you got more than 11 million Americans who don't have access to healthcare right now. Are you fucking
Federal
kidding?
law clearly prohibits the expenditure of taxpayer dollars to provide health care to undocumented immigrants, period, full stop. And no Democrat on Capitol Hill is trying to change that law.
We have, of course, J.D. Vance out saying that all we want to do is provide, I say we, a Democrat, provide, care for illegal aliens. That's his language. And of course,
that's just not true, what he's saying.
The American people know that Republicans have shut the government down because of their unwillingness to provide health care
5 Democrat
to everyday
senators shut it
Americans,
down.
working class Americans, and middle class Americans.
Yep, that's a lot. Well, not a lot, but they showed a handful of violent illegal immigrants who received Medicaid. Anyway, so moving on to the next one here. Christian Collins, Hakeem Jeffries says President Trump's deportations are not what the American people voted for. Meanwhile, 175,000 Americans have applied to become ICE agents. Another example of Democrats being completely out of touch with the American people.
Jeffries.
Which, by the way, ICE, they may have actually opened it up to more, but initially they were only looking for 10,000 people. And they've already had, at this point, close to 200,000 people who applied
You
for
wear
it.
many hats, and one of your jobs is to try to win back the House for Democrats. And we were talking about immigration before we went to break. Now, some Democrats, amid the criticisms of ICE right now due to these ICE raids, have started calling for defunding ICE. Do you think that's effective going into the midterms, and do you support those calls?
Well, I definitely think that we need aggressive oversight as it relates to the overly aggressive behavior that we've seen, from ICE, from the Department of Homeland Security. It's not what the American people actually, in my view, voted for. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to go after violent felons.
And they are.
But instead, they're going after law-abiding immigrant families.
But they're not.
You wear many hats.
They're
and one of your
absolutely
jobs
not.
is to
Not
try
right
to
now.
win back the
They
House
will
for
be.
Democrats.
But that's what the popular majority of Americans actually voted for, because that's why they voted for President Trump, because his campaign issue number 1 was the immigration
We were
issue.
talking about immigration before we went to break. Now, some Democrats, amid the criticisms of ICE right now due to these ICE raids, have started calling for defunding ICE. Do you think that's effective going into the midterms, and do you support those calls?
Oh,
I
yeah,
definitely think that,
please campaign on that.
We need aggressive oversight as it relates to the...
defund. All right. I'm not going to play it a second time all the way, but all right. RNC Research, Hakeem Jeffries, no Kings protests are just as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. These protests will feature pro-Hamas speakers and have sponsors like the Communist Party USA.
The protests that are going to take place today, the peaceful expression of dissent is entirely consistent with the American way. In fact, it's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie.
Yeah, and they made it, they were so hell-bent on trying to keep it as peaceful as possible that most of the No Kings protests occurred from noon until 2 o'clock p.m. And just about all of them, with the exception of a very small handful, because they claim that there were 2,500 different locations for the No Kings protests, like 99% of them only occurred for just 2 hours, just around lunchtime, because they knew that if they were going to put that on in the evening hours, that they were going to get way too much violence because, you know, they don't want those young progressives going out there and protesting because we all know what they're capable of doing. All right, anyway, so that was in response to Chuck Ross. He's speaking alongside Mehdi Hassan and Effeni Evans, an activist who wrote "Fuck America," celebrated the Trump assassination attempt, defends Hamas resistance, and called Charlie Kirk a bitch after he was murdered. Freebeacon.com, so on and so forth. I will link that. But anyway, they're responding to Chris Murphy. "Big day tomorrow. Don't let Trump's authoritarian crowd bully you into silence. This is our movement to stand up for our democracy and against his corruption. I will be with Bernie Sanders at the D.C. rally. Find yours at nokings.org. I mean, who's going to finally tell them that we're not a fucking democracy? We aren't a democracy. All right, moving on. Eric Daugherty, just in, Hakeem Jeffries calls Caroline Leavitt sick. She's out of control, demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. Every single one of those words apply to Hakeem, not Caroline. He's flailing.
It's a matter of deep concern. Like, we've already seen a rise in political violence and hatred in America. And then you've got swastikas apparently appearing in the offices of Republican members of Congress.
What? Apparently? I would love for you to show proof of that one. Swastikas in Republican offices. You notice how he threw in the word apparently because he knows he's completely full of shit.
You've got young Republicans engaging in the most anti-Semitic and racist speech possible.
Such as?
Like, this is apparently...
Look, man, this would be the time for Democrats to be blasting that all over social media. I go over Democrat posts all the time. I see it all day, every day. And I haven't seen one single instance of any young Republican engaging in anything that he's talking about. You'd think that they would be showing images of this stuff because it would be egregious. But there's nothing to be seen. Absolutely nothing.
Who many of these people are. They are ripping the sheets off. In plain view.
What sheets? Oh, you mean like the white sheets that Democrats used to wear back in like the 20s, the 30s, the 40s? You know, the Ku Klux Klan, I think they were called, which was started by the Democrats because they lost their slaves.
American people. Their words, their actions, revealing themselves in so many different ways. And then you got Caroline Leavitt, who's sick. She's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump
that's exactly
administration
what
in the middle
your party
of
stands
a
for.
shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Oh my God, dude. Does he actually think that people actually believe what he's saying? I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people who do believe what he's saying, the people that just blindly follow everything MSNBC, CNN puts in front of or puts on the screen for him every single day. All right, Sarah Rose. Caroline Leavitt goes off on Hakeem Jeffries. Here's the comeback after he called her sick, demented, ignorant, and a stone-cold liar for merely speaking the truth. Let's hear what Caroline has to say about that.
Sure would, Sean, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so. Look, Hakeem Jeffries is simply lashing out because he knows that I am telling the truth about the modern-day Democrat Party. What I said, and it is a fact, is that the Democrat Party caters more to pro-Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. And let me walk Hakeem through the facts of that statement. When it comes to pro-Hamas terrorists, it was Hakeem's House Democrat caucus that voted against a resolution condemning the October 7th attack on Israel. It was Hakeem Jeffries' Democrat caucus that supported and encouraged the pro-Hamas protests that ravaged college campuses and engaged in illegal harassment of Jewish students across the United States of America under Joe Biden.
And who was it? Was Harvard? Was Stanford another one? Berkeley was another one. They settled for hundreds of millions of dollars out of court for students, Jewish students, who were relentlessly harassed on college campuses. They had to pay untold millions and millions of dollars earlier this year because of that.
When it comes to illegal aliens, the American people know the truth about that. The Democrats allowed them to flood our country. Why? Because they view that constituency as their future voters. And when it comes to violent criminal...
and also they're counted in the census, and Democrats want to use that so they can get more congressional seats. That's what it's all
criminals, look at what the Democrats support in terms of crime. Soft on crime policies, like
defund the police, remember that?
Bail, like letting violent criminals out
now they want to
back into
defund
the
ICE.
streets so they can
but they love law
recommit
enforcement.
Violent offenses against law-abiding American citizens. The Democrat Party puts Americans last. That's why they overwhelmingly lost the election to President Trump and the Republican Party, and that's why they're holding this country hostage right now from law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens who want the government to be open. So Hakeem Jeffries should stop calling me names. He should stop trying to fight my boss, President Trump, and he should go back to doing what he was elected to do, the business of the American people in Congress, and encourage Senate Democrats to open the government. And I see Hakeem Jeffries saying House Republicans are out. They're not even here. Yeah, because they did their jobs, and they passed a clean continuing resolution at the behest of President Trump to keep the government open. And now Senate Democrats and Chuck Schumer are blocking that to fight Donald Trump, and it's despicable.
Well, I could take a wild guess as to won that argument. All right, I got another one from Hakeem Jeffries. Rep. Hakeem Jeffries is now threatening to sue Speaker Johnson if DEI Rep-elect Adelita Grijalva isn't sworn in today. Democrats have shut down the government in order to try to get free health care for illegals, but they'll get nothing.
You are demanding that
actually
be sworn in this afternoon.
Wait here, let's see what he says.
Not, what are you planning on doing, and are you going to be there for the proposal?
All options are on the table with respect to Representative-elect Adelita Grijalva. It's shameful that she has not been sworn in because Speaker Johnson and House Republicans apparently want to continue to hide the Jeffrey Epstein files from the American people.
Or maybe it's because the government shut down.
Weeks. And so it's my expectation that if she is not sworn in today, during the pro forma session today, as the Arizona Attorney General has made clear, expect swift and decisive legal action.
Well, look, I've been pretty clear about that. I'd side with the Democrats on releasing the Epstein files. Yeah, if there's any Epstein files, release them. Yeah, don't hold them back. That was ridiculous. They said they're going to release everything, and they didn't release everything. I mean, that's absolutely stupid. Plus, back in the beginning of September, you had the victims of Epstein addressing the nation, letting us all know that they're going to release their own list. And I still have yet to see that list. Why are they holding that back? They should have just released the names while they were up there on the podium. But there were several victims of Jeffrey Epstein, as they said, and they said that they're going to release their own list because Republicans are refusing to do so. And I'm still waiting. I think we're all still waiting for that. They still haven't released their own list. So, all right, anyway, Hakeem Jeffries, please spare us the fake outrage and try not to be such a fraud.
The threat right now in this country to the American people are extreme MAGA Republicans. That's the threat. That's the problem. That's the crisis that we confront. Extreme MAGA Republicans. And then you got Caroline Levitt.
I'm serious because I'm doing the political hand gesture.
She's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants, this makes no sense.
All right, from Sandy, Hakeem Jeffries, the events of January 6th were truly the Hate America rally. Currently, Democrats are likening their No Kings demonstration to the American Revolution. Let's take a look, and let's go to the next right here.
I support the right of every single American.
That is a terrible view. I can't full screen it.
Take place this week, and showing up to express dissent against an out-of-control administration. That's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. That's the First Amendment. And the notion that this...
All right, what is this one?
2.5 centuries ago,
Shifty
a
Shift.
handful of farmers and printers and philosophers looked across an ocean at the most powerful man in the world and said no. No to divine right, no to inherited power, no to the idea
that would be on July 4th,
man's
dude.
will could rule a free people. In the Declaration of Independence, our founders set out a long list of grievances against their British masters. And here's part of what they said. He has obstructed the administration of justice, made judges dependent on his will alone, cut off trade with all parts of the world, deprived us, in many cases, of the benefits
Oh,
of
good grief, dude. I don't want a fucking history lesson. Oh my god, I'm not going to watch that shit for 3 minutes. Whatever, if you want to see it yourself, I'll repost it. If you want to check it out, I'll put it on my profile, which is linked in the description. Or you can also just go straight to Sandy, SD73660. You can remember that. But anyway, yeah, it's reposted. So Hakeem Jeffries, one more. Peaceful protest against an out-of-control president is the American way.
I support the right.
Oh, we already saw that. All right, whatever. All right, new Rep Hakeem Jeffries doubles down on his hate Caroline Leavitt. The White House press secretary is an unhinged disgrace. If she's opening her mouth, it means she's lying. That's the best comeback he's got.
Well, the so-called White House press secretary is an unhinged disgrace. If she's opening her mouth, it means that she's lying. And clearly, we've seen
Spoken
that
like
in
a true
this
Democrat.
context. The protests that are going to take place
Well,
today,
they're just
the
like
peaceful
lying.
expression of dissent is entirely consistent with the American way. In fact, it's as American as motherhood, baseball, and apple pie. It's what the framers of this Constitution envisioned. You know, in this country, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. But when the government fears the people, there is liberty. And it's important.
Yeah, well, the Democrats don't fear
Americans
shit.
Of
Well, actually, they
every
probably do,
political
which is probably why they're going so
to continue
psychopathic.
to express peaceful dissent.
That's why they're
with
trying
the
to take our
out-of-control
guns away.
policies of the Trump administration, and the fact that Republicans continue to unleash extremism on the country in ways that are deeply harmful. Well, the so-called
All right. So we got that one. I think that's the end of Hakeem Jeffries. I mean, there's this one, which, yeah, I already went over that one, so I don't need to go over that one again. So there you go. Hakeem Jeffries being a lunatic as usual. Doing the best that he can do. Just the very, very best that he could possibly do. All right, Office of the DNI. NATO allies have never shared intelligence as quickly, effectively, or across such a wide range of topics as they do now, stated a senior NATO official. This is on newsukraine.rbc.ua. U.S. shares unprecedented amount of intelligence with allies, says NATO official. NATO allies have never shared intelligence as quickly, effectively, or across such a wide range of topics as they do now, stated a senior NATO official. He noted that the United States remains by far the largest provider of intelligence within the North Atlantic Alliance. U.S. intelligence agencies are sharing information more actively than ever before. I've seen no signs of a slowdown in intelligence sharing, neither from the U.S. nor from our European colleagues within NATO's intelligence community. On the contrary, everything is happening the exact opposite. We are all increasing our efforts, including the United States, emphasized the NATO representative. And so they're replying to this individual, Oxy, and he says Dutch intelligence suspends sharing arrangements with the U.S. after concluding that high-level intel was routinely being shared by the White House with their friends in the Kremlin. Dutch intelligence is smart. Netherlands, blah, blah, blah. I can't read it because I only speak English. So, yeah, there you have it. All right, the White House, quote, I am pleased to announce that ground has been broken on the White House grounds to build the new, big, beautiful White House ballroom. The White House ballroom is being privately funded by many generous patriots, great American companies, and yours truly, President Trump. And anyway, he says, I'm pleased to announce the ground has been broken on the White House grounds to build a big, okay, so the East Wing is being fully modernized as part of this process and will be more beautiful than ever when it's complete. For more than 150 years, every president has dreamt about having a ballroom at the White House to accommodate people for grand parties, state visits, etc. I'm honored to be the first president to finally get this much-needed project underway with zero cost to the American taxpayer. The White House ballroom is being privately funded by many generous patriots, great American companies, and yours truly. This ballroom will be happily used for generations to come. President Donald J. Trump. And moving on to Secretary Lori Chavez de Reymer. Executive order on filing executive order on federal hiring is critical in our efforts to right-size the government and deliver on the America First mandate. And she's the Secretary of Labor, by the way.
Exactly the executive order that the president asked. He wants the accountability and the streamlining of the American taxpayers' dollars. He understands that absolutely we want our federal government to be reduced in size. We want the private sector to grow. And that's exactly what we've done under this president. Private sector jobs have been the focus. Under the Biden administration, everything was in the federal government and their growth.
Shrink the government,
so do we want accountability?
increase enterprise.
Yes. Do we want to hire people who work at the federal government to be aligned with the president? Absolutely. America First policies matter. Exactly.
America First. Always America First. Wait, hold on. Yeah, they whitehouse.gov fact sheet. And I'll add that up there or down there. All right. RNC Research, CNN, the majority of Americans describe the Democrats as weak. So this is on CNN, words describing the Democratic Party. Weak, 64%. 46% say extreme, 44% say reasonable, 27% strong, and 26% effective. That does not look good, especially being shown on CNN. Former Biden press secretary. All right, yeah, that's not really related. All right, rapid response 47. VP Vance and the SLOTUS second lady Usha Vance, they both depart for Israel, where the vice president will continue the Trump administration's work on the historic Gaza peace deal. It's just them heading up the stairs, getting up into Air Force 2, heading out to Israel. Sounds like there's been some gunfire exchange between Hamas and the IDF apparently over the last day or two. I don't think I have anything on that, but yeah, looking like that. I'm not sure if the deal is going to be broken, but it sounds like the conflict is continuing. All right, from House Democrats, Trump and Republicans want to give $40 billion to Argentina, but they refuse to lower America's costs or save Americans' healthcare. So much for America First. And it's from the AP. And yeah, so $20 billion, I'm not sure if that's given in the form of a grant. I'm sure that the article will mention it, but $20 billion of this $40 billion is being used for a currency exchange. So we're giving Argentina 20 billion USD, and they're giving us $20 billion of Argentine pesos. So assuming that the Argentina government or the economy is going to get better, then it's a win for us because the value of that currency is going to increase, the currency in our possession. So the Trump administration is looking to provide an additional $20 billion in financing for Argentina through a mix of financing from sovereign funds and the private sector. That would come on top of the $20 billion credit swap line that the U.S. Treasury pledged to Argentine President Javier Milei and his government this month to bolster the South American nation's collapsing currency. We are working on a $20 billion facility that would complement our swap line with private banks and sovereign funds that I believe would be more focused on the debt market, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told reporters Wednesday. He called it a private sector solution and said many banks are interested in it and many sovereign funds have expressed interest. At a White House meeting Tuesday with Milei, Republican President Donald Trump said his administration wanted to help our neighbors with the aid package, but he also suggested that the money could be pulled if Milei's party did not prevail in the October 26 midterm elections. If he loses, we are not going to be generous with Argentina, Trump said. All right. The Argentine peso, not news without an agenda. The Argentine peso weakened slightly Wednesday after Trump's comments. The peso depreciated about 0.7% with the dollar, the currency Argentines rely on to save, trading at 1,395 pesos compared with 1,385 pesos the previous day. On Wall Street, shares of major Argentine companies rose slightly after dropping as much as 8.1% Tuesday upon Trump's comments. In Argentina, the opposition's criticism was swift. Former President Cristina Fernandez, who is under house arrest after a corruption conviction, wrote on social media, Trump to Milei in the United States, our agreements depend on who wins the election. Argentines, you already know what to do. Martin Lusteau, president of centrist Radical Civic Union, said Trump doesn't want to help a country. He only wants to save Milei, and that nothing good can come out of this. Maximiliano Ferrero, head of the opposition Civic Coalition, called Trump's comments a blatant act of extortion against the Argentine nation. Look, with him saying that they're gonna pull that if he loses the midterm, I don't agree with that. I think that doesn't look good on Trump at all. If that's indeed what he said, I think if the U.S. government is pledging this money to Argentina, it shouldn't, completely hedge on whether or not if a sitting president gets reelected. I mean, I don't really dig that. All right. So Kelly Loeffler, SBA, has launched an investigation into ATI Government Solutions and Susanville Indian Rancheria. This is why we have been conducting a full review of the 8A program, ostensibly designed to help socially and economically disadvantaged small businesses compete in the federal marketplace. Yet what we've discovered so far has been institutionalized abuse, which potentially amounts to billions of dollars in federal contracts that are run through shell companies, fraudulent pass-throughs, and other schemes. That's why in February, the SBA took immediate action to slash 8A contracting goals across the federal government. In June, we launched an audit of the program to review every 8A contract for the last 15 years. And in July, we rescinded the contracting authority of USAID, which was involved in a massive bribery scandal. James O'Keefe has exposed an important truth. Like every other government program rooted in DEI, the 8A program is rife with grift and fraud. Under my leadership, the SBA is committed to restoring integrity and implementing strong reforms to protect U.S. taxpayers from further abuse. The full audit is ongoing, and whistleblowers may contact the following link. And this comes from James O'Keefe. Let me open this up. $100 billion federal contracting scam has been exposed. 8A firm admits to violating federal law using minority-owned status as a front to obtain $100 million no-bid government contracts while outsourcing 80% of the work. ATI Government Solutions contract manager Melaine Cromwell admits to exploiting 8A SBA program through pass-through scheme and breaking federal law. Quote, I tell you, pass-throughs are a great thing. We only do 20%. The rest goes to subs. And remember, there's no competition. So it's a long video, and I'm sure it's copyrighted because it's James O'Keefe. It's his work. So it's from OMG. That's his new organization since Project Veritas kicked him out a couple of years ago, which is absolutely insane to me. I don't even know if Project Veritas even exists anymore. But anyway, so I'll play maybe a minute of it, but I don't think I can play very much of it.
80%. Wow. I don't know if we want to share that they do all the work. No, never. So we do about 20% of the work.
20%.
Right?
These government contractors like ATI taking advantage of their special minority-owned status.
And I tell you, pass-throughs are a great thing as well. So a lot of our subcontractors bid on contracts that were perfect in their industry, but because they weren't Native American, they wouldn't win it. So we bid on it for them. They became our sub, and it's an automatic win because of your Native American status. Isn't that exciting? Right? A lot of people don't know that.
I don't think anybody knows that.
And
we want to keep it that way.
That's right.
That's James O'Keefe. I just now realized that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
What the taking the money in, subcontracting much of the work out.
Oh my God, dude, that was a comically bad disguise.
Percentage, and they do the work.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, they're doing
sure on purpose.
Get the contracts, get the money, act as a pass-through, and it's the taxpayer who gets screwed over.
Is there some rules or something that you were telling me about, like that you have to report 51%?
51%.
Women's classes, James.
Correct. Right. As long as it's on paper.
As long as it's on paper.
51%. You're good to go. And remember, there's no competition because you're Native American. Right? Ding, ding.
That's the best kept secret.
It is indeed.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Uh-oh.
Go ahead.
Here's to pass-throughs.
There you go.
How about that?
Exactly.
In Vino Veritas.
All right. So I'll link that if you want to check that out. It's already got 1.5 million views. He just posted this almost at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I'll do that. And if you want, you could go straight to James O'Keefe III and go check that out for yourself. So anyway, I think I'm getting close to the end here. So from RT, shit war escalates. Liberal influencer Brian Krasenstein airdrops barrels of feces on Mar-a-Lago in AI video. Healthy political debate in the U.S. So this is obviously in response to President Trump's post, which I think it was on True Social. It might have been on the X platform also. But it was the one where he's flying in the fighter jet. Actually, do I actually have that? Yeah, here it is. This is what I'm talking about. This was in regard to the No Kings protest. Oh yeah, hold on. Let me mute it because yeah, I know how it goes on YouTube. But I think we're all familiar with that song. Of course, it's an AI video of him dropping loads of poo onto Harry Sisson. That was that dude's name. Soy boy Harry. All over Times Square. All right, so Krasenstein responded with an AI video of his own, which I think is kind of hilariously cringy. I mean, like, dude, you really didn't have to do this, but anyway, we'll take a look at it. I mean, dude, like, that took... Like, did they spend, like, more than... No, of course they didn't. I was gonna say, obviously, that didn't use any editing or anything. There was just, like, poo that was flying horizontally with the ground and twirling around. I thought that was about to spell out something, but no. Anyway, so Libs of TikTok breaking. Undercover audio reveals Montana teacher boasting about making sure students have access to corn books. And this must be investigated immediately. These teachers think they can get away with secretly grooming your kids. So let's take a quick look at this. Or a listen, rather.
My victory story. About 4 years ago, I had a book in my library that my colleague removed.
You got the caption up here on top.
And my colleague did not, when she made this decision, was not truthful with our administrator that it was going to result in the book being removed from our library. I did not find out about it until after it was already gone. And this was a situation where this librarian struggled to maintain objectivity. And she struggled, again, her heart was in the right place. 100% her heart was in the right place. But she was leading with her heart and not with her head. And it caused the book to essentially be censored from my library. So just this year, I was able to order that book. It is on its way. 2 copies will be sitting on my library shelf. And I did not even realize until I saw that the order was shipping how emotionally attached to that situation I was, because there was nothing I could really do about it for a couple of years. So I had to just sort of bide my time, get that book for my 8th graders if they requested it. But now my 8th graders will be able to pick them off the shelf. So that's my little censorship success story.
Well, good grief, man. I don't know exactly what book that they're referring to, but I mean, obviously it's a book that doesn't belong in the hands of middle schoolers. But I mean, if you live in that district, sounds like you probably have a word with the school district ahead of you. And so that was in response to Finley Warden undercover footage. A middle school librarian brags about adding a book with sexual content to her school library. The book was once removed from the library, but she describes how she brought it back. And anyway, it goes on from there. But this is on Libs of TikTok if you want to check that out. And I'll repost that as well if you want to read into that further. And let's see. I don't know if that's everything that I have. Let me see. I think that's basically all I got. See, that's the problem that I'm going to have if I decide to, moving forward, go with my likes list as opposed to the bookmarks list, because I like all kinds of stuff. So now I'm not even sure if this is where... I think that was the point where I intended on ending this, but now that I got this in front of me, illegal immigration hurts African Americans. Oh, okay, so this was in response to the Mayor Brandon Johnson post, which I already went over. So I was going through stuff, and I gave that a like earlier when I was doing research for tonight's episode. So, but anyway, that actually does it for this evening, and I'll be back with another one tomorrow. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel also. It would really mean the world to me if you subscribe, and I'll drop a new show every evening covering the swamp Monday through Friday. Everyone living in the swamp, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes over on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.